Hello everybody, welcome back. In this video we're going to look at some of the other commands which will allow you to create 3D geometries. Now you might be in a situation where you think the straight extrude doesn't cut it for me anymore. I think I need something slightly extra. What we're going to do is we're going to look at revolve boss base, sweeps and lofts in that sequence. Okay, the first step, we're going to start with revolve boss base. In situations like where you think I can't specify a cross section and extrude things out straight this direction or the other direction, that's when revolve is really handy. It's also more efficient than extrusion in cases where you have circular spindly objects. Okay, some of the examples are now shown on the screen where I would think this is an ideal scenario where revolve boss base is applied. Okay, there's also influence of the design for manufacturing methodology here. If you are intending to manufacture something using a lathe, a turning mechanism, then you are expected to use revolve boss base because it kind of gives us all the right dimensions. So the objects which are basically cylindrical, circular, which can be manufactured on a lathe, definitely go for the revolve boss base command. Okay, this is how it works. I'm going to start a new part file. I'm going to jump on the front plane, and for revolve boss base, it is an expectation for us to specify an axis of revolution. So if you imagine a potter's wheel like mechanism here, where this construction line here gives us the axis for revolution, and anything you draw around it will then be revolve around 360, 180 degree. You can control that revolution there. Okay, so I'm going to go green tick to confirm. I want to draw myself a profile, and this profile is going to be let's just say a circle. And I want to leave it at that. I don't really want to constrain that any further. Exit sketch. The minute I go into revolve boss base, it's the second command from the left. Solidworks is really aware of the fact that I'm trying to convert that sketch into a revolve boss base, and based on that, it will automatically do most of the work for me. In this particular case, as you can see, Solidworks has decided to revolve that circle around that line 360 degrees automatically. I didn't have to do anything special. All I did was I had my sketch pre-selected. There is a construction axis in there, or a construction line, and the understanding is Solidworks will revolve around it. If it wasn't there, sometimes you will have this space empty. You got to go in and say, when that box is active, you got to specify the axis of revolution as this, and Solidworks will then pick the entities from the same sketch and it will turn it around to a degree of revolution. In this particular case, if I can confirm, this gives me a really nice looking donut in just a few steps. Really, the applications of this particular command are endless. As I said before, there are a few images which will go up on the screen now. These are all mechanical parts. You can imagine these being made on a lathe, and it's definitely a good idea to use a revolve boss base because of the simplicity of it and the correlation of that with the manufacturing process. Let's see if we can make something very quickly. Here, what I would like to do is, once again on the front plane, I want to go and draw myself a construction line. This is going to be used as the axis of revolution once we are ready to revolve it. What I wish to do now is I wish to draw a profile around it. Like so. That's a good profile. I'm going to confirm and I'm going to exit the sketch. When I go into revolve boss base, just like earlier, Solidworks will do all the complicated calculations behind it, and it has realized that we can actually create a revolve around that axis using that profile there. You need to notice the fact that I can control the extent. So instead of 360, I could do a half turn and I would get a part like this, or I can differentiate different directions, so I can control that like so. So I would like it to go 180 degree that way and 90 degree this way. I can do that as well. If I had something else in mind, for example, I didn't want it to revolve around that line, I could then, when that blue box is active, select this line, and Solidworks will use that as the axis of revolution and turn the object around for me, and it will look somewhat different. At any point in time, I am able to go back and edit my revolve, either by undoing that or by clicking onto the tree and going into the edit to be able to come up with an alternative solution. Hello everybody, welcome back. In this part here, we're going to look at some special sections here where we probably won't be able to use a straight extrude or a revolve wall space. I have some images on the screen here which probably establishes the case very strongly. Whenever we have a cross section that moves through a non-linear path, or maybe a linear path, but it doesn't have to be a straight line, it twists and turns as it goes through it, we are basically stuck with the extrude wall space, a standard command really. And this is when the sweep comes in really handy. The way sweep works is it relies on two bits of information. Number one, the cross section of the movement. So I'm going to pick one of these planes as the space where I'm about to draw the cross section. So let's just say I want to draw, I want to extrude that out. On a standard extrude, it would be a cylinder. But if I were to use a sweep command, it allows me to do a lot more than that. Okay, so that's my cross-section profile. I'm going to go on a perpendicular plane, preferably 90 degrees to my profile section here. I'm going to go, in this particular case, it's going to be the right plane, where I create a new sketch. Now this new sketch can be any profile, an open profile if you like. Okay, for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to go ahead and create myself a straight line profile just to gradually build the case here. Okay, I can green tick to confirm and exit sketch. Now the way sweep works, it's right here. It relies on specifically two selections. The first selection is going to be your profile. So if you look at the icons here, they're pretty straightforward. Or if you bring your cursor here, it says, what is your profile? I'm going to go and select my circle as the profile. Next up, it's I think it has automatically seen the path as my latest sketch, and it has gone away to come back with a preview here. If it wasn't the case, we can always go and say, when that blue box is active, I can select my straight line as the path I would like to for the extrusion to perform. So I can green tick, and it gives me a cylinder. Now you might think, well, how is this any useful? Why aren't we just using extrude wall space command? The reason we're doing that, because sweep allows us to do a lot more than that. Number one, I went with the simplest possible solution here, which is a straight line. But what if we didn't have a straight line? We have a curve, just like the icon here suggests. Let's see if we can do that now. So I'm going to edit. And this particular sketch, which is a straight line right now, I'm going to turn that in probably a composite sketch. So what happens if I were to go in and say, at the end of the line, turn this direction? Okay, I could, if I wanted, I could try and hit that with some dimensions, but for the time being, I'm just going to blend those two elements in. Like so. I'm going to green tick to confirm, exit the sketch. So all of a sudden I have a circle sitting here on the front plane, if you imagine, and a wire that goes through the middle of it, which is going a certain fashion. It's not going in a straight line anymore. It obviously blends and it jumps into the other onto the other altitude there. So let's see if you can use the sweep command for this. Once again, you got to activate the command and you got to follow that natural sequence of selection. I'm going to go, my first selection is going to be the profile, and the second one is going to be the path on which you would wish the profile to be transmitted over. So I'm going to go green tick to confirm, and it gives us a profile like so, which I think is pretty handy. Now what if we had a slightly different profile? The possibilities are endless with this. We could make it work in as many permutations as possible. So for example, if I have a line section here, and if I'm just looking to draw that door handle section, it's basically just a big C shape here with some fillets around there like that, probably slightly bigger. I can green tick to confirm and exit the sketch. Now for the cross-section profile, I'm going to go onto the right plane, which is 90 degree, and create myself a sketch. Now this sketch is going to be a centered slot command. I'm making sure I'm latching onto the end point. Somewhat like this. Just making sure we have everything we need as a wireframe. So we have that slot shape there. I'm going to exit the sketch, and perpendicular to that is we have that wire section that comes out of the center point and it traverses a certain path. Let's see if we can use that as a sweep. Sweep. Profile, it's going to be slot shape. Path, it's this shape here. I'm going to green tick to confirm, and this gives us something rather nice to look at. As I said before, there are tons of applications of this particular command, and you can see in the images here that without a particular application of sweep, you will not be able to draw those or design those. Okay, just something you need to notice whilst we're here: the sweep boss base and the swept cut, they are very similar commands. They work exactly opposite to each other basically. However, the hardware you need to provide is exactly the same. For instance, to demo the sweep cut, and if I wanted that hollowed out, and probably I can draw a profile in the middle and I can get it all the way to go out that way. So let's see if we can do that now, just to be able to demo how sweep cut works. I'm going to go onto that section now, create a new sketch, green tick to confirm. Now I wonder if I can take a copy of that, so I'm going to go use the command called offset entities, and I'm going to offset that face inwards, probably 2 mm, like so. Green tick to confirm. Now sometimes I know I already have a sketch which I have used as a wire. Probably I need to create another one. I'm going to try and get away with it. I'm going to try and use that as my path for the next sweep cut. So let's see if it allows us to do that. I'm not so sure. Sweep cut. The profile I'm after is sketch there. The path I'm after is probably hiding in here. I wonder if I can select that as the path. It's happening. I'm going to go green tick to confirm. So all I did is produced a smaller oval shape onto that end plane. I'm going to recycle the same sketch we produced previously, and I did that by opening that tree, which allows me to select any of the older entities, and I'm going to go green tick to confirm, and there we have it. We have a sweep boss base and a sweep cut command right here, showing us what we can create with that. Hope you like that. Next up, we're going to look at an even more special command. I think this is the ultimate in SolidWorks. This is my all-time favorite. Obviously, I try and avoid using this because this is such a high-level command that it warrants a certain need to be able to reach out and use that. This is like having the ultimate power to be able to make anything you desire, really. Where looking at the image here, it's you know, where you have a profile, but the profile doesn't stay exactly the same. It changes through the cross section. But what's more interesting is it doesn't have to go in a straight line. You could morph the profile in 3D space, like this particular example here. As you can see, the circle goes through a bend, and then by the time it ends onto the other end, it turns into a nice, beautiful slot shape. So let's see how lofting works. Okay, so before we go ahead and jump into creating all the wire work and the line work for our lofts, there is something else that we must talk about, and this is how do we create planes if we need to work on something at slightly different level. These front plane, top plane, and right plane, they have been ideal so far, but what if that's not enough? I would like to create more planes, just so that I could specify to SolidWorks saying, right, start at that level, end up at that level, and go from a circle to a different shape. However, I don't really have that level right now. We won't be able to create anything at that altitude if we didn't specify a drawing surface right at that point. Okay, so how about looking into the mechanism of creating different planes? You know, all of that can be found in the reference geometry. So I can press and hold the chevron, and this then allows me to create different planes. I can click plane, and bear in mind this is slightly CPU intensive process, so it might take a couple of moments for your computer to respond to this. What it's expecting for us to specify are basically a bunch of references. What is it we are trying to recreate? What is it where do we want the plane to be? And the minute I start referencing, minute I start activating those boxes and clicking something on in this space around here, it will try and generate the new plane dynamically. The information, I don't need to worry about all of those references. Sometimes some information I'm producing, for example, first and second reference, might be enough for it to completely generate the plane I'm after. So for instance, what if I wanted a plane a certain distance away from top plane? Okay, so I can go, my first reference is going to be top plane, and if I select that, by default SolidWorks has assumed that I wanted something at a distance of 10 millimeter. It's probably true, it's probably not. What I can do is probably try and control that distance. Say I don't really want something to go from there to there in 10 mil. I want it to be slightly longer. So I'm gonna go and bump that number to be 200, and that gives me a plane in this space here. Now, as you can probably tell by the color, this is color blue, and I don't need to specify any more references. I'm okay with this preview here, so I'm gonna go green tick to confirm. What I've done is literally selected top plane, and SolidWorks will try and create a plane at a distance away from that. It's as simple as that. If I wanted multiple, I could do so by toggling the number around here. But for this time being, I'm happy with one plane only. I'm going to green tick to confirm. And there we have it. We are not locked down to these three planes anymore. We are allowed to sketch on plane 1, which is actually hovering 200 millimeter above the top plane. This is beautiful stuff. Okay, now how do we use this newly acquired information? I'm gonna go and start sketching my cross section. So I'm gonna go first on top plane. My base profile is going to be, let's just say, a simple circle. Just making sure that dimension is there. Exit the sketch. Okay, that's my base profile. That's interesting. So what I can do is I can create an end condition here, or an end profile on that plane. Right, now I'm sketching at that altitude there. I'm going to go right click, look straight on. Okay, so what would you like that circle to be when it reaches the altitude of 200? I would say, how about a bigger circle? So we're going to go from 80 diameter circle to 120. in the space of 200 millimeter. The applications of this particular command are endless. If you're designing the wing section for an aircraft, if you're designing the wing section for a wind turbine, where we have a cross section, it changes as you go through the space. It scales up, scales down, changes shape literally, and it doesn't even go in the straight line. It is morphing as it goes through 3D space, and this is the build up to that point. Okay, so what we can do with the loft command here, lofted boss base, if you activate that, we need to specify the profiles that we need to connect. Okay, so when the blue box is active, I'm going to go and say I would like to connect that circle there and the other circle which is hovering about 200, and it's giving me a preview which is exactly what I wanted. So I'm going to go green tick to confirm, and there we have it. We have created ourselves a nice profile. Now this was a very quick watered down version of the capabilities of what Loft can actually do. Okay, so I'm gonna try and expand on a little bit. What if I didn't want it to go in a straight line? I wanted to specify a certain profile for my shapes to follow, to be able to start and end in that way. Okay, let's go and try and do that. I'm going to delete my Loft because we're going to come back to it. How about I wanted to specify a cross section this time? The word I'm looking for is called a guideline. So the guideline I'm after sits on a 90-degree plane here. Okay, 90 degree to the profiles we have produced. It cannot be the same sketch. Okay, it has to be a separate independent sketch for the command to work. So I'm gonna go this section here. I want to draw myself a guide. So it's basically just a line which I made sure that it doesn't latch onto the circles anymore correctly, because I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that manually. I'm going to say, holding down Control and the edge of the circle, it allows me to merge or to pierce that point, which guarantees me that that wire is now welded onto the line, and they will always stay connected. I can do exactly the same on the other end. So I can say, select that line, Control select the circle, and I want them to be pierced together. And I can green tick to confirm. And this then allows me to select that as my guideline, as a guide curve, like we did in sweep command. However, this is not everything. I wanted to create slightly sweeping shape on this side, so I'm gonna go a new sketch. It can't be the same sketch, you gotta create a different sketch, and this time instead of one straight line, I would like to go probably like this, in and outward a bit more. So I'm gonna go starting from there, probably inwards and then outward like that. Once again, I'm gonna make sure my line work is tight and they're all connected. So I'm going to go multi-select and pierce those things together, and I can do exactly the same around this way. So select that, Control select the circle, make sure they're piercing, green tick to confirm. I want to look at it straight on just to make sure that it complies with the shape I was after. So probably I wanted to go inward a little bit and then out. It's only reasonable to apply a nice blend at this point, like so. I'm going to go green tick to confirm. It's an arbitrary number. Exit the sketch. Now I think we have something slightly more exciting than the just two circles in Spice. We have those two cross sections. We have a straight transition on this side, and we have a curved transition on the other side. What I'm going to do is I'm going to activate the Loft boss base command. When the blue box for profiles is active, I'm going to go in a sequence. I'm going to select that circle there and the bigger circle on top. That's brilliant. This is the preview. I don't want that. I want to specify some guide curves. So I'm going to activate that space, and I'm going to go, how about you draw me that profile through this line, and Solidworks will comply, hopefully. Not that line, that was the preview. This line here. and it's taking that in and saying, right, okay, we have done that. And that's not all of it. I want it to go through that line as the waistline, and so as this profile which we created. Look at that. So it's going through both of those now. I can green tick to confirm, and that gives me the profile I was after. Now I think we can build on that knowledge and probably start thinking about creating that air intake that's on the screen right now. This particular air intake goes from a circular shape to an oval shape, and in the process it takes about a 90-degree turn with a smooth bend. There are a few things you need to know before jumping into that exercise. Here I'm creating a new part, and as I discussed previously that we have our starting condition, so we're going to start on the top plane here. Let's just say the circle, bear with me. Exit the sketch. Now this is our starting point. I would like the air intake to go out in space and then turn this way a little bit more. And for that purpose, I'm going to have to create a construction plane. Now this plane, I wish for it to be parallel to right plane here at a certain distance away. So I'm going to pre-select the right plane. I'm going to go geometry, plane. And now I am about to commit to a plane about that distance away. That's probably too much. I'm going to green tick to confirm. Here on this plane, it may look like I'm sketching this level, but I don't wish to do that. I want to sketch up here somewhere. That sketch is going to be a slot shape, and I want to start with aligning my center point with that plane there. Just make that horizontal. Some idea of the sizes. Green tick to confirm and exit the sketch. Now the problem we have here is the fact that if we were to go loft those two profiles together, Solidworks will do something which is mathematically the easiest possible transition, and it will create us a profile like so. So the circle going straight into the slot shape. I don't think we want that. I want to create probably a guide path that sweeps in like so, both the directions. So let's try and do that. What I wish to do here is to draw myself the guide curve on the front plane, because the front plane cuts both of these sketches right in the middle, and it will allow me a perfect opportunity to create that blend. Now let's see if I can use a combination of lines and a blend and a fillet to be able to create that blend. So I'm going to go, I know the line needs to start from that point onwards somewhere. It needs to go across here. I'm just drawing a rough profile which I can then control in the end. So that's L shape there. What I wish to do now is to weld this end of the wire by selecting the end and control clicking the edge of the sketch, and I'm going to go pierce. That locks that in quite nicely. I wish to do exactly the same on this end, so this end is not dangling in space somewhere. I'm going to go control select both of those entities, and I'm going to make them pierce. If I look straight at it, I wish to make sure this line is horizontal and this line is vertical here, and I wish to apply a fillet, a nice round bend. About 80mm, and green tick to confirm. Now that gives me the first guideline. If I wish to go with that, it will be okay, and SolidWorks will do a good job of that. But I want to be more controlling. I want to do exactly the same on the other side, and probably try and control it that direction as well. Okay, so for that purpose, I'm going to exit the sketch. This has to be separate sketches. All of those need to sit in individual sketches. Probably could be on the same plane, but they need to be created as separate sketch entities. Now here I'm going to go and do exactly what I did previously. Let's probably create myself some line work here, which is not accurate, but I know I can control that by rotating the screen a little bit and making sure they're sitting nicely where I want them to be. So I'm going to go select that endpoint, control select the circle, and make them pierce. Green tick to confirm, and I'm going to look straight at it. Here I'm going to go once again and make sure this line is sitting horizontally and this line here is sitting 90 degrees, so vertical. Once again, the blend, I wish that to be a 30mm radius. For them to be concentric. I know I made that 50, this is 80, so that gives me a nice concentric band of 30mm. I'm going to green tick to confirm. And there we have it. I think that's our line work complete. I'm going to go and activate the lofted boss base command. When the profile's active, I'm going to go and say, can I have a loft from the slot to the circle, please? And when SolidWorks does that, I'm going to say, nah, I wish you can go along this path here. Nice, that is good, that is good. See, this is the reason we are using two guide curves, because if there was just one, it still wouldn't look that smooth. Okay, so I'm going to go select the first guide curve, I'm going to go on to the next one, select this one, and that blends in super smooth. Look at that. Green tick to confirm, and that gives me the profile I'm after. Now, as I said before, this is an ideal command for a situation where nothing is constant. You have a cross section that moves through space, and as it moves through space, it doesn't go in straight line, it's actually flexing, it's bending at 90 degrees. And by the time it comes out the other end, the end condition of that is not the original shape we started with. And this is, I think, this is where the lofted boss base command is really handy. As I said before, if you are designing a wing section, or let's just say wind turbine blades, and there are tons of other examples where you have to use lofted boss base command. Loft cut is exactly the same but opposite, in a way that you have to start sketching the entities, defining the profile, the initial and the final profile, and also define the path you wish for it to be taken, and following that you run the command out exactly the same interface as that, however the opposite effect. Okay, I hope you like this.